I am your host, Kemi Amin, and this is Who Are You? A podcast on purpose. Join me for conversations with people near and far about how they are finding their way, starting with one simple yet complex question. Who are you?
Abi Salami, full name's Abi Salami. Just a free spirit who's, kind of bouncing around the universe, trying to make it more positive than it was before I got here.
Episode 3. For this session, I had the pleasure of speaking with Nigerian American visual artist based in Dallas, Texas, Abi Salami. A self-taught artist, Salami graduated with a master's in professional accounting from the University of Texas at Austin and worked in public accounting and real estate for almost a decade before deciding to follow her passion for art as a full-time career. She creates vibrant, colorful cultural pieces with the primary goal of creating awareness about the importance of mental health, especially within the African community. Growing up in a Nigerian household while suffering from depression was challenging for Salami, as discussing and addressing mental illness within the African community is still very taboo. After suffering privately for years, she is now dedicated to using her artwork to ensure that others do not have to continue to suffer in silence. It was so refreshing talking to my fellow Naija sister. From mental health to art branding, we discuss art as a living, healing, and lucrative practice. Enjoy my conversation with Abi Salami. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good.
Where are you based out of?
I'm in the Bay Area.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
Really? You're in Houston, right?
No, I'm in Dallas.
You're in Dallas. Okay.
Yes.
I was
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was in Houston back in 2017, and that was my first time in Texas. And so I'm assuming that Houston's culture, energy is different from Dallas.
Yeah.
But I was very impressed with Houston.
Yes.
The fact that I saw Black people both in Lamborghinis, working at the service desk, entrepreneurs, all the different social economic classes. I was like, wow, this is very empowering, because in the Bay Area it's different.
Yeah. Okay, so I was in San Francisco for Superfine, which is funny because I actually have an interview with them later this evening.
Oh, nice.
And that was one thing in San Francisco. I loved it, but I was like, there's literally no Black people anywhere. I think we saw one family the entire time, and we were in the Bay Area. Where was the area it was called where we stayed? Fisherman's Wharf.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Very, literally, even to the point where the guests were at the fair were we're asking about what areas to visit. They're like, yeah, you're kind of in the widest neighborhood. Even the white people were like, this is the widest neighborhoods that you're going to be in. You're like, you need to go across the bridge to go see some.
Oakland has more Black people for sure. And we had a moment where it was it's gentrifying, right? But I definitely do see a lot of Black transplants coming to the Bay Area and Oakland specifically. But it's interesting. It's all in flux. Yeah, it's I don't know what to think about it all. But what's the culture of Dallas like?
So Houston is way more cultural. I mean, they're always on the list for one of the top cultural cities in the United States. Dallas is devoid of culture, devoid. So that whole it's basically very segregated. I would say it's like a Bay Area because the places that you would want to live as an educated person who likes nice things and wants to feel safe, you're probably going to be one of five. As far as being not even just being Black, but just being the minority in general. So other major cities like Atlanta, they have neighborhoods for the really educated Black people, and there's no such thing in Dallas. There's just that culture is not even a thing that's kind of entertained or even exists here. So
why Dallas?
It's cheap. It's really, really cheap. The cost of living here is so when I graduated from UT, I moved to Chicago for 2 years. And that, I mean, although I enjoyed living there, it was too cold. And then also everything was just so expensive. Like, especially coming from Dallas, where I'm used to everything being like parking is free basically everywhere you go unless you valet park. And then coming to Chicago, where like just having a car, period, is just like you're just forking over $20, $30, $40, $60 just to put your car somewhere. And that was like, it wore on me too much. But I think now that I'm older, and this is when I was like in my early 20s. I think now I'm older, I'm more open to moving, but I may have become a little bit complacent here. The weather's great most of the time, and it's cheap. So
Yeah. No,
you can travel to other places and experience things, and then come home back to your cheap life. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I definitely get that. And how are you been doing like in the quarantine? How has work been, work as an artist? What have you been experiencing during this
I
time?
feel like I have flourished during the quarantine, and I know this is a very unpopular um, opinion slash like occurrence, but like I'm not a super social person, so like I don't feel like my lifestyle has really changed in as far as like going out and stuff. So like it's not like I'm like, oh, I wish I could. I'm like, I'm still okay. And because I have no distractions, I have been creating at a not so much an accelerated amount, but like also a higher level because I have time. I really have time to like work on the pieces, really focus. There's not a lot of things going on. I don't have like an event coming up or fairs or show anything. Like it's just straight up like I'm creating. And the great thing about a lot of things I've been creating have been commissions. So I'm working with people, which I love to do. I'm helping them make a dream, a vision, a dream, like come alive on a canvas, and it's effectively sold. Like there's like something kind of discouraging about creating art right now, where a lot of people might not be able to afford it, and there's potential that this could just sit in, accumulating dust for months. And the fact that commissions have become a thing, like not just from me, I've heard other artists say this too, that they've been getting a lot of commissions. I think it's a good ego boost because it's like this is pretty much already paid for, and I'm creating something that I know for certain that somebody's going to want and love and cherish, and it's going to be passed down for generations. So um, I see it as kind of like a blessing in disguise because the world literally feels like it's on fire. I think parts of it currently are right now. And so just the art world doing so well, because like it's not just me. I talk to other artists, like they're actually selling art because people are home. That wall that they've been staring at that's been blank for a year, 5 years, whatever, they finally are like, oh, I want to put something there. So it's great that people are turning to art as a way to cope with such a scary time. And I'm happy that like I've been able to work and focus in that time. So
Yeah, yeah, that phenomenon of like art as a healing agent is very real. And I want to get to that, but I actually wanted to just see like how do commissions work for people who don't know.
it's funny because I had to make a whole video about this because I was getting so many questions about it. And it's actually on my website, but just real quick, so a commission is basically just custom art. Like, and I don't know why they came up with that big scary word to make people feel even more intimidating about a very intimidating process, but it's just really custom art. And so people reach out to me, and what I like to do, this is my process, I do get on a 20-minute call with them, kind of discuss like their vision, budget, size, if they have any color themes or any specific things that they want. Because really what I try to do is let them use me as a vessel to create like their idea, right? They've seen my style of work, clearly they like it, that's why they reach out to me. Like, now let's make this happen. So then from the call, we do all the legalese stuff, and then I start working on the commission. It's usually 4 to 6 weeks that I ask for, just because, and I've actually been able to do it a lot faster. Once again, thank you, COVID, for not allowing me to go anywhere.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It was like within the week, because I don't realize how many hours you spend wasting whenever like the world is open versus when the world is closed, and you're just like, I have nothing else to do. I might as well just sit here and just work on this painting. Like, I'm not distracted by anything else. I'm not like, I don't have a show coming up. I don't have, friends to go hang out with. It's just straight up like just work. So I say 4 to 6 weeks, but it's been taking me like anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks, even less sometimes, to finish the commissions. And then from there, show them final piece, and then that's done. So really, what people need to get over is the asking part. They get really intimidated. But I created a whole landing page on my website that talks you through the whole process. There's a video there. These are my pricing lists. It's like, it just doesn't have to be a scary thing. I want more people to commission original art because there is value in there, and people are missing out on that potential investment component in their whole like financial portfolio. So
that's interesting because it sounds a lot like graphic design. I have a background in graphic design, and I would work with clients, and they would tell me their vision, and we kind of came to a consensus together and collaborated together on what they wanted to see. One of the reasons why I left graphic design was because of the back and forth tension of like, oh, can you like throw, some Comic Sans font in here? And how about make that red? How do you manage that in commission work? Or do you?
There's a lot of having to put ego on the back burner and remember that I'm providing a service, right? There have been times where clients have asked for things to be added in a painting, and I'm just kind of like, I don't know why you want that. Like it's literally pissing me off that you even asked. But you have to remember, this is not my painting. This is theirs. There's clearly, if they felt the need to even mention it, then there's clearly something, some emotional connection and some reason that they felt that they wanted it there. Give it to them. And I try to kill the back and forth by doing that initial, like with the call, and then afterwards I come up with a digital sketch of what the painting is going to look like, and I kind of make it clear that like this is where we're stopping. Once you agree to this, we can't keep going back and forth because it messes me up. It messes the mind up as an artist. Like I don't think people understand that art, at least for me, is more of a fluid thing than it is technical. And commissions, you're basically taking something that's really fluid and trying to make it technical. And I prefer clients who have more of an understanding about that sense of like, everything's not going to be perfect. Everything's not going to be exactly what I say it is. I'm going to trust the artist to do their job. And I asked for that in the beginning, and I'm just kind of like, I need you to have confidence in me and my ability. If it's something just completely wrong, yes, please, definitely tell me. But if it's just something that you're just like, let me fill it out. If we get to the end and you're still really upset about something, we can fix it. But for the most part, whenever I kind of like veto sometimes their ideas and I do what I originally said, they're always like, oh my God, that looks amazing. And I'm like, yeah, I'm the person who's the expert. Trust the expert. Yeah,
you get them together.
Hard because a lot of people have control issues, so it's kind of like managing that. And I totally get what you're saying. Like it can be kind of aggravating, but I think the ultimate, like the wows and oh my God, it's amazing. It's exactly what I wanted. And then some of them talking about like, I can't wait to like pass it down to my children and keep this as a legacy thing. That's what keeps me in there. That's what I'm just like, wow, like I'm gonna be passed away, moved on, and their kid is gonna be like, this is in our home. Which one of y'all cheering is gonna get this next? Like, like that's amazing feeling. So I think that kind of overpowers the kind of like technical side of it. So
yeah, it really is an art, isn't it? Yeah, that's interesting. And going back a little bit, I want to know, how did you go from public accounting? What is public accounting and real estate? Like, how did that jump?
Yeah. So so my background is in public accounting slash finance. And that was totally my dad. Being Nigerian, you say you want to be an artist, they're like, or whatever, or not. And so my dad was like, go to business school. From there, you can literally go do whatever you want, but at least have 3 letters behind your name that, if this doesn't work out, you can always go back to. So I actually did public accounting for 1 year because that's exactly how much I hated it. And like to the date I quit, like literally on my anniversary. I was it was just too restrictive. Of course, I'm one of those people who's fortunately like both sides of my brain work, the creative side and um, the math side. But I think the creative side is larger and wants, and it's the one that like does more. Because even when I was working in corporate, if you ask anybody who I talked to or stood still for too long, they will tell you that Abby is really an artist. I actually had my chief accounting officer come into my office because my boss at the time told me to put my art up in my office. And he came in and he's like, "Are you sure you're in the right field? Like, he's like, I feel like we're gonna lose you to this one day." And that is kind of what happened. The company got sold, and I got laid off. And well, actually, I didn't technically get laid off. I just didn't accept the offer that the new company gave me, and then I was laid off. And I took that as a sign from the universe, is like, go do what you've always wanted to do. And that's kind of how I ended up here today. It's been a wild ride, but that's kind of a quick backstory on me.
Yeah. And when did you start doing art? Like, you know,
I've always done art my entire life, but when I got laid off was February 2018, the end of February 2018. So it's been about 2 years and some change since I left corporate.
yeah. And how has being a full-time artist changed you?
Oh, in every single way, literally every single way. I think corporate is great. It is safe. It is so safe. You don't even really, it doesn't push you to do anything that's completely outside your comfort zone because you can find a neat, like if you're working in a big enough company, say you start off in payroll, you're like, I don't like payroll. I'm gonna go do, forecasting, right? So you can just keep on bouncing around in this like safe bubble where, like there's like rules about promotions, there's rules about pay, there's rules about conduct. Like you're just kind of like in this structure. It's almost like an extension of school. And then you go out into the corporate world and specifically out of the corporate world and specifically as an artist, you're you are all the way from the CEO to the janitor as an artist, right? Like I just thought when I left, and I probably should have done more research, that it was kind of like, I'm just gonna paint, I'm gonna post it, I'm gonna do shows, and people are gonna buy it. And it's like, no, this is still technically a product, right? And you have to sell it as such. And that involves you being a marketing person. That involves you building a website. That involves you, and this is all in addition to like also creating the art. So it's like it's a literally 24-hour job. Like, I mean, I know that I have to sleep, but even when I'm sleeping, I feel like I'm still dreaming about like what I need to be doing or coming up with an idea for a painting. So it's like you're literally always working, and you have to deal with a lot of fear of rejection, like or getting over your fear of rejection. That was like one of the biggest things for me. Like in corporate, who's rejecting you? There's nobody rejecting you in corporate. Like you might make a mistake every now and then, but like because of who you're reporting over, who's reporting under, there's always some kind of like cushion protecting you from like complete backlash, right?
And you're coming with this big organization with you.
Yes.
So when you're
Yeah.
approaching people outside, there's this, 5,000 person,
Exactly.
entity behind you. Yeah, I totally.
Exactly. If you even think about the people who mess up and have these public embarrassments, they always put the name of the company first. They're like, at least, like, say if I had like a complete mess up and I say like this most horrible thing, like I was like, all bunnies are not cute, and then like they want to write a headline about me, they're gonna be like, Abi Salami, employee of blah blah blah, said this horrible thing. Like you still have like, it's almost like they're gonna try to attack your business, not you. Like they can't do anything, they can't control your mouth. But like when you're completely on your own as an artist, like every single thing that happens is you. It's all you, all the time, 100%. So it's a little different, but it makes you grow for sure. And or it's either you grow or you just fail. Honestly, you have to grow. It's like it forces you to push yourself outside your comfort zone and learn new skills and just get over a lot of insecurities that I could definitely say that I had when I was in corporate.
What did that look like for you financially when you were going from corporate? Did you prepare yourself? I mean, I know that you said that the company sold and you made the
Mm-hmm.
choice decision to move on. What did that look like for you?
Fortunately, I got a severance. So that was actually the main reason that I decided to take the leap, because I was like, okay, I have a bit of a cushion to kind of go out there, really try it out, give it a year. And if I don't feel like I'm getting any traction, I can just go back and get a job. Um, I think even after a year, when I didn't feel like I fully got traction, I was not ready to go back and get a job. I got like some part-time jobs. I did some bookkeeping. I worked at a high-end floral, synthetic floral shop. I taught some classes at Michael's. So I had part-time jobs along the way to kind of help along. But I think after leaving corporate for that long, and a year doesn't seem that long, but it was long enough for like me to see that like I did not fit in corporate. Like I didn't think I could go back and um, go back and just kind of like assimilate back into that culture of like, this is how things are done, and you kind of have like no autonomy in making decisions. You're always kind of having to escalate things, and then a lack of creativity, because an artist, every day there's no 1 day, 2 days that are the same, right? Like every single day you're doing something different. You're working on a new project. You're getting approached by a different set of people. You're getting inquiries. There's a whole bunch, and it didn't seem like I could go back to that. So there were definitely times it was scary, nerve wracking, because you go from, I remember March 1st when I didn't get a direct deposit from my job. That was scary because it was like, you always like your account balance to look a certain way, because that's money coming in each month. And when it doesn't, and all you see is like going down and down and down, like that can be very terrifying. But I guess I was just really stubborn. I'm just like a really stubborn person when it comes to art, because I love it so much, and I just didn't feel like I could go back. So you just keep pushing. And this thing, it takes time. A lot of people ask me, about becoming a full-time artist. I almost always tell them, don't. Like,
Wow.
wait. Okay. Really don't. Like, just wait it out. Like, you have this thing, like, especially if you can't show me that you have a loyal following, either online or, you do shows and they're following you. If you don't have the people behind you, you're going to make a lot of decisions out of that fear of like rent, bills, and you don't want to be in that position, right? If you look at my fiance's career versus mine, and he worked for up until June of last year, right? And he was selling. He's been selling. Like literally, like this is the day that he decided to start making art. Nobody was buying it, but he always wanted to have the power to say like, these are my prices. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm not doing. And I don't need you because I still have a job that I can fall back on. And he was able to make like a ton of really great decisions along the way that clearly have helped him exponentially. So I always like point to like him, like look at Jamie's career and see how well that worked, because he had the sanity of not having to think about bills and feel that pressure all the time. And yeah, it sucks to work and have to create art, but you have to think about the long game, I think. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, and you're getting into that life of unpredictability, really, of
Yes.
entrepreneurship and art.
Yes.
How did you create routines for yourself to allow you to get to the space that you advise people who are aspiring full-time artists to do?
You have to treat it like a job. You have to clock in, clock out.
Yeah.
You have to. This romantic idea of an artist, yawn, wake up in the morning, sun streaming through the windows, and then you saunter over to your easel and just start. No, it's a job, right? So you say, I'm getting up at this time. By X time, I need to be in the studio. I'm going to allocate 10 hours to doing the administrative stuff, taking care of my website, orders, all that good stuff, 20 hours to painting, 10 hours to, what I call development, self-development. So like I love webinars, seminars, all that good stuff. Always on YouTube trying to learn new tricks and all that kind of stuff. So you're literally going to have to do that. If it lacks structure, you're going to fail. You have to treat it like a business. Like, what are your hours of operation? act that way. And even if you don't have studio visits or anybody coming to see you, dress up and go to work every day as if somebody's coming to see you, somebody's watching you, like you have a boss or whatever you need to say to yourself to like get motivated. Because that, like, when you're working for yourself, who is motivating you? Who is checking to see that you clocked in today or painted today or, watched that webinar that you kept saying that you wanted to watch, or, worked on your website to improve, the flow or SEO optimization? Nobody's doing that. So you yourself have to set goals like, this is what we're doing this week, this is what we're doing this month. By the end of this 3 months, I want this to be done. And it's always evolving. I think that's another one tip that I would say. Like I got sometimes so stuck on certain goals, and it's like, well, if 3 months from now it doesn't make any sense, then you need to change it and come up with new ones, or adjust them, or whatever you need to do. But like, because you're learning every day about how this stuff works, so don't just assume that what you said 3 months ago is exactly how you need to be living your life now. But that you have to treat it like a job.
Yeah. Yeah, that's big. You said hours of operation, SEO.
I'm not just saying this stuff. I live this life.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's big. I think there's a big misconception that people who go into being an artist, a full-time artist, that there is this like kind of free for all, like anything goes. I can, do things whenever I want. I can make art all day. But there's a large part of this that takes that left brain and thinking, like in working in synergy together to kind of to support each other. So that's huge. That's huge.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And kind of getting into your art specifically and the content of your art, there was a piece that I saw that stood out. There was a few pieces that stood out to me.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful work. And it's called The Summer Nuptials in My Precarious Kingdom. And you said as follows: this piece was inspired by my boyfriend, now fiance. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Has been my rock as I struggle with depression, anxiety, and chasing my art career dreams. The recurring motif of the impossibly stacked chairs present in this painting, representing how unstable I sometimes feel because of my mental illness. The male subject looks warily at the viewer as he holds on to the handles of his bike, and the female subject looks defiantly at the viewer while wearing a strange outfit consisting of a suit jacket and an African print dress. The suit jacket represents my internal struggle with leaving corporate America to chase my art career, and the African skirt represents the conflict I've had to deal with my Nigerian parents not completely understanding why I would leave a respectable job in corporate America to become a mere artist. That really resonated with me. Has your art served as like an agent for coping and healing from depression for you?
Oh, for sure. Art has always been an escape for me, like a way to just kind of get away from the world. And I think also kind of tying back to the first question you asked me about COVID and how, I've been coping. I think the fact that I think I've been so busy creating art because I needed to cope for everything that's going on. And so that shows like how much of a coping agent it is for me. It's a way for me to express myself. And I've also tried using it as a way to kind of create a dialogue for mental health awareness and try to get people to talk about it, especially particularly within the Black/African community, because it's not discussed, it's completely looked down on. And there are a lot of people who are silently suffering and nobody's giving them any help, right? Like I was talking to a client the other day about that. She asked about the chairs, like what does it represent? And I was telling her about it, and she's like, nobody talks about the fact that we all have an aunt, uncle, cousin, brother, sister who, either drinks too much or does drugs, and nobody addresses the fact that like there might be a mental illness that's underlying all of that. Like we just kind of write it off as in like that person's just a booze or a crackhead. It's like possible, totally possible. also, like, let's talk about the trauma that a lot of people of our complexion have endured over the years. Talk about the ongoing struggle of just going out and being a Black person in the world where, you know, if you do something wrong, nobody's trying to see like whether you were abused as a child and whether that's what resulted into you becoming this person. Immediately, you're like a villain, you're a criminal, you're whatever, and having to live in that world and see things every day happening to other people, happening to your family members, happening to your friends, happening to, you know, on the news, and what effect that has on the brain. So that's why last year I created that serious stigma to kind of like get people talking more about that. And because I think art is just a great way, even if you're not an artist yourself, it's a great way to cope with any kind of mental illness. Like they in European countries, I read, I think sometime last year, the doctors are prescribing going to the museum to deal with anxiety and depression. So clearly there's something there that helps, it touches the humanity within us, and, you know, and maybe uplifts us in some kind of way, gives us some kind of hope, gives us something to look forward to, even when things don't necessarily look like all rosy and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And being African, like there's actually a really amazing book called The Healers by an African author, Aikwe Arma, that kind of
Mm-hmm.
goes, he's a beautiful author, and he goes into the topics of uh, mental health and depression specifically in pre-colonial Africa. Which was like, you know what I mean? Like, and I think in a lot of African cultures, and spiritualities, there is like an immense amount of like emotional, like tools to cope with like
Yes.
emotional issues and mental illness and healing agents. And it's unfortunate because in my experience of dealing with especially a lot of like, you know, my parents, my grandparents, the emotional intelligence is a little bit limited. Uh,
Very.
so people are going through all kinds of mental health issues and not really dealing, but just living in
Yes.
survival mode with it. So I really appreciate you addressing such a pressing issue. I think also in the Pan-African, you know, community and just the diaspora in general.
Yes, yeah, I think it's completely important. It's, you know, if you think, look at what's going on even just right now. You know, there's oh, actually, I have a girl I went to college with, and I'm totally blanking out on her name, but she's a YouTuber, and she did this. This is back like maybe 5 years ago, maybe even more. She did a kind of like a little tongue-in-cheek video about calling in Black, where she talked about the fact that like whenever there's a shooting or something of this nature where it literally rocks you to the core of your humanity as a Black person, you just want to sometimes call in and be like, listen, I can't come into work today. A Black man was lynched. So
Hello.
I'm feeling some kind of way. And, you know, it was funny, but I'm like, I actually had another person post about that today. I don't think she's ever seen that video. She was just talking about the fact that like she works in healthcare, mental health. And she was just like, so sometimes you just need to call in, phone it in, and be like, "Listen, I've lost all faith in humanity based on this. The fact that we even have to like, it's great that there are cameras recording, but now we're all forced to watch it, right? Even I haven't seen the video, but I've seen photos. I've people, you know, their comments, you know, describing it. So technically, I feel like I've witnessed this man die, and that is traumatic, right? Like nobody talks about that trauma to people who are Black specifically, but even just people in general. Like nobody should have to witness that.
Yeah.
And like what effect does that have on our brains and on our emotions and how we treat each other going forward and how we love ourselves going forward? Like all those things really, really need to be addressed in my sense. And that's why I did that whole series, just like get people to kind of talk about it. So.
Just something that needs to be addressed in among Black people, dealing with our trauma and addressing the ways in which we act out our traumas on each other, out in the world, how we internalize them. It's a very real thing.
Yeah.
So to be able to have those conversations through art, I think is pretty powerful for sure.
Yes.
Your another project of yours or brand of yours, which is called Taunes Bunny, right?
Taunes Bunny, yes.
And well, one, what is pop surrealism,
Mm-hmm.
which I believe is the genre in which Taunes Bunny was created?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so pop surrealism, so pop as in, colorful, bright, but also just like not super realistic. Because if you think of surrealism, you look back at like Salvador Dali, you look at Rene Magritte, even Frida Kahlo, there's a sense of realism in the style that it's been painted. It's like things that could legitimately happen, but it's wacky and weird off enough where you're like, oh, clearly this is some kind of dream state that's going on. But the pop takes away the realism part and kind of makes it like Taunes Bunny is more cartoony, illustrative in nature. So it's like a combination of like that surrealism, but also adding that illustrative pop sense to it. If that makes any sense. So
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
And Taunes Bunny reminds me of Sanrio. Are you familiar with Sanrio? Like Hello Kitty?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a whole series of characters. I love the idea of Taunes Bunny as this fun character that's like this marriage of art and brand.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what is the story of Taunes Bunny? How was Taunes born?
So Taunes Bunny was invented in October of last year, and I was kind of having I was burnt out. I was burnt out on after working on the Stigma series and showing it, and always talking about depression, anxiety, and all that stuff. And I felt like I wanted to do something else that was like a little more fun and loose, and just like I needed an escape. And I had to just start sketching a couple ideas and then, painted them. And I was like, I kind of like how this looks. It's kind of cool. And the reason it's called Taunes Bunny is because the tones of brown, right? So it's like different tones of brown.
Taunes Bunny, tones.
I said it that way because I want people to ask me why it's spelled, like how to pronounce it and why it's spelled that way. And therefore we can talk about Taunes Bunny. I'm all about tricking people into doing stuff. So that's why I spelled that way. And so the bunny is T-Bugs. That's kind of like the mascot of Taunes Bunny. And he is technically me, but a he. So my mom used to call me Timid Rabbit when I was a kid because she said I was always like following her around. I was like really shy. But I'm one of those people who's shy but adventurous, if that makes any sense. So like I'm scared at first, but I'll still do it. And then I'll go there and just kind of like lurk. Just kind of lurk, but like you're still doing it, right? Like it's that feeling of like, okay, or even like for instance, like leaving corporate America, terrified, right? Still did it. Still out here doing it, right? Like, but still very like, what's going on? Like, what's happening? And if you look at all the images, you'll see T-Bugs. He's usually hiding behind something like either a cloud or in somebody's hand or something like that. So he's exploring all these whimsical, wild, crazy worlds, these gardens, these places. And even though he's a timid rabbit, he's still there, right? He's still putting himself out there. So the motto of Taunes Bunny is always be filled with wonder. And it's that sense of like, yeah, you might be scared. Yeah, you might be out of your comfort zone. Yeah, you might think that you're not meant for this. You're not good enough, whatever. Get that out of your head. Go out there and do it. Once you get there, you realize it's actually not that bad. You might actually enjoy yourself. So that's all Taunes Bunny is kind of wrapped up. So.
Yeah, and being a marketing person, I imagine this whole world of Taunes Bunny, and I love it. And what are your plans for the future for Taunes Bunny?
So it's been challenging with this COVID thing because I started to get a ton of commissions, and I'm not going to say no to money, right? Especially when you're like not sure what the economy is about to do. So it's like I had to kind of put Taunes Bunny on the back burner. My whole idea was like for it to be an art brand, and in the sense like you think about Cause, you think about Verdi, you think about Bear Bricks, you think about those brands where like there's like a kind of like a little mascot, and then they can do all these things with them. That's kind of how I envisioned like T-Bugs being. I made we actually got a 3D printer, putting out this little toy. It's really cool, and people actually have been buying it, which has been really cool. And just kind of creating this other world. Like, I want Taunes Bunny to be like the most positive place on the internet. That's kind of like when I set out to do it. I was like, okay, go on the internet, and it's literally like an anxiety attack waiting to happen. And there's got to be one place you can go where it's just fun and fuzzy and great and happy and all that great stuff. So it's in the works, but it's been kind of challenging. COVID really threw a lot of things out of because I had these shows planned for Taunes Bunny. I was going to do a solo show. I was doing a show in Houston. Luckily, I was able to do the one in San Francisco before everything got kind of shut down. But life.
Yeah, I know. But I love Taunes, and my mind was going there. I was like, oh my God, I can see a children's book. I can see.
People reached out to me asking about a children's book, and clearly it lends itself so easily to that. If I could literally split myself into two people so that I could do both, that would be great. But it's COVID put a wrench and everything. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, and we get things done one step at a time. So
yeah, definitely.
So good. That was beautiful.
Nailed it.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much, Abi. I really enjoyed our conversation. I really appreciate you with me. I wish you and your fiance, Jamie, the best. I love his art too, by the way. So
Thank you.
All the best to you.
Thank you, Cami. This is so great. I appreciate you asking me to do this, and best of luck.
Check out Abi's work at abisalami.com and on Instagram at abi.m.salami. You can watch episodes of the Who Are You podcast on YouTube. I'll drop a link in the description. Subscribe, hit the notification button, and like the videos. You can also get early access to episodes by joining our mailing list at waypodcast.com. That's WAY podcast.com. Until our next conversation, I'm your host, Kemi Amin.